Here we go.
From the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, it is the Confirmed Epic Podcast, the official podcast of the epicreview.com, where we always find your lack of faith disturbing when you do not read our articles or leave comments. Joining me today, as always, is
Jerry Reed, also known as Barbecue 17.
As well as
Andrew Stokes, also known as Andrew Stokes.
All right, in case you hadn't figured it out, today we will be reviewing Star Wars number 1, Darth Vader, Star Wars number 2, Darth Vader, by Marvel Comics. This is written by Kieron, Gillen, and drawn by Salvador Laroca. We're going to review those first two.
Gillen from Doctor Who?
Kieron Gillen, that's the name of the writer.
Okay.
Kieron
Salvador
Gillen.
Dali.
Not a Doctor
Dali,
Who actor or writer. No, not to be confused.
Actress. Yeah, okay.
All right, is she Amy Pond?
Yup.
Okay, so Amy Pond did not write this Darth Vader book, although that would be pretty cool, even though I'm not a Doctor Who fan. But
Did CM Punk write a comic recently?
yes, he wrote the Thor Annual, which I haven't read yet, but I'm looking forward to reading it. They did a really cool variant cover with that had some Thors in a wrestling ring. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into what we have been checking out recently.
Check checklist? Check. Double check checking of checklist? Check.
So, Barbecue 17, what have you been checking out this week?
What have I been checking out this week? Well, a couple things I've been doing. Yesterday I was out geocaching with a friend, and I hit my 300th geocache yesterday.
Congratulations.
So I was pretty proud of that.
Epic accomplishment.
Epic accomplishment indeed. I'm really excited. They're not here yet, but my wave of the first series of Big Trouble in Little China reaction figures are on the way, which Big Trouble in Little China is one of my favorite movies. I'm so excited that they're on the way that I actually watched Big Trouble in Little China again the other night just to prepare myself for them coming. Definitely one of my top.
That's the one with Kurt Russell, directed by John Carpenter, right?
That's one of the 3 with Kurt Russell, directed by John Carpenter. But he's in it.
Yeah, I know the thing.
One of the 4, excuse me.
The thing. What else? Escape from New York?
There's an Elvis movie and Escape from New York.
Okay,
yeah.
The Thing, Escape from New York, the Elvis movie, and Big Trouble in Little China, which you love, one of your favorite movies of all time.
It's on my top 10. So.
Anything else?
Yeah, I beat Far Cry 4, 100% completion. In Far Cry 4, it was pretty exciting. And there's a new group that actionfigurebarbecue.blogspot.com is a part of. That is Toy Bloggers United. It's a group of toy bloggers, and we're actually having a really great contest. It might end tonight at midnight. I can't remember. Or it might end tomorrow night at midnight. Once again, I don't remember. But if you go to the website, the Toy Box, which is a great website, you can actually if you comment, you're in for a chance to win a really great prize. A bunch of us just sent our prizes in to one person so they can all be sent out to the winner.
All right, Andrew Stokes. All right, what about you? What have you been checking out?
Well, I finally watched a movie. I imagine both of you have probably seen it before. I finally watched it for the first time last night, Air Force One.
I haven't seen it.
My plane.
Yeah. You haven't seen it?
I've never seen it.
You've never seen Air Force One?
No.
If you're an Amazon Prime member, it's one of the movies you can get for free on Prime right now. It's really, it's Harrison Ford. The action movie's really good.
I saw Air Force 2 with Tracy Morgan in it. It was pretty good, but not as good as Air Force 1, I hear. Yeah. So what would you have rated the movie, Andrew?
Probably great.
Great.
It's pretty great.
If I had seen it when it originally came out, probably epic, honestly. But I've seen it for the first time. But I mean, it's really good. I mean, if you're a big fan of Harrison Ford and action movies, definitely check it out.
It was 97, right? 1997, I think, around that year.
It felt earlier than that.
It had to be late 96 or 97, because I actually remember seeing it in a dollar theater with my parents.
I remember those days. I saw Batman and Robin like 4 times at a dollar theater one time. Worst $4 I ever spent.
But he spent it $1 at a time, multiple times.
Exactly. I had to escape the heat that summer, that June 1997. I tell you, that was a hot time in my life. All right.
I have fonder memories of eating at Taco Bell and pulling the little Batman pictures off the cups for the prize than I have of watching Batman and Robin.
And that's sad because that Taco Bell trip was followed by explosive diarrhea. So that tells you a lot about that movie.
That's for free. I'm not sure if I talked about this the last time we were on a podcast, but I have been checking out the first season of The 100.
Yeah, you talked about this.
Did I talk about it on the last podcast?
That was a show you're really fond of on the CW, science fiction show, right?
That you said doesn't feel like a CW show.
It really doesn't. Yeah. Again, there is some like drama-y aspects of it, but it's really more on the sci-fi. And I have 1 episode to go in the first season now, and I mean it's a really good show. If you're looking for a good sci-fi show in the vein of like Battlestar Galactica or something like that, it's not cool. I haven't watched Battlestar Galactica, but I doubt it's that high level from what I've heard of that show. But I mean, it's a really good show.
I don't watch CW shows that don't have a will they, won't they subplot. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. All right.
There's a love triangle, so there's a little something for you in there, Brad. But
yeah, I actually got to check out something pretty cool. I got to read Spider-Gwen #1 this week by Jason Latour with art by Robbie Rodriguez. And what's really cool is Jason Latour, the writer, and the colors, Rico Renzi, actually are from right here in the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina. They're from Charlotte, North Carolina. The colorist on this book actually worked at Heroes Aren't Hard to Find in Charlotte, North Carolina. But I got to attend a signing yesterday. Those guys did in Charlotte. Waited in line for 4.5 hours. My wife, who has no interest in comic books whatsoever, was a real trooper. So, got a shout out to Abby on that one.
Nice.
But speaking about the book, it's a really cool book. It's kind of a hipster book. Definitely, in this universe, we're talking about Gwen Stacy being a part of a band called the Mary Janes, led by Mary Jane. With
is this an Archie comic or
not an Archie comic? No. And it has Betty Brant's daughter as one of the female members of the band, and Robbie Robertson's son as a member of this band. A lot of Gwen tags things with a lot of graffiti art. I'm not going to talk about how they handled the Peter Parker character and kind of flipped that dynamic from the original 616 relationship between Gwen and Peter.
Don't talk about that.
But I'm telling you, great comic. I would definitely rate it epic. It was a great event Heroes put on yesterday. Spent more money than I should have. Spider-Gwen is trending on Twitter, Instagram. This is one of the hottest books out right now. It's definitely a popular character. The first appearance of the character went all the way to 5th printing. And a lot of comic book shops all across the country had big release events this week, multiple signings. But one thing I'm curious about here is this takes place in an alternate universe. And after Secret Wars, what is going to happen to Spider-Gwen? And I posed that question to the writer yesterday when I got up to the front for the signing. He said, that's not our plan right now, but anything's possible. And it's kind of an odd predicament for Marvel because they created this character in Spider-Verse, thought it would be a one-off thing. The character became super popular overnight, a lot of cosplay, a lot of t-shirts, a lot of original art being done. And now they kind of have to keep the character. They just gave her own series, but that kind of contradicts everything. That's their goal of Secret Wars, which is to mash up all the multiverse type of continuity within Marvel. What do you guys think about that, Andrew? What are you, being a Marvel fanboy yourself?
I mean, I haven't read any Spider-Gwen thing at all, honestly. Like, the only thing I know about her is it's Gwen Stacy. She's from an alternate universe. You know what I mean? She looks really cool. And that's about all I know.
Do you think that she will be in the 616? Because everybody's pretty sure.
They can't get rid of her now. She's really popular. I mean, Marvel's trying to be more diverse in their kind of like mainstream. So, I mean, having not only a strong female character, but an original strong female character. I mean, Gwen Stacy's not original, but her being Spider-Man, again, versus Peter Parker is a good idea. And I mean, it's interesting. I want to see if it'll somehow affect the movies down the line, seeing how Spider-Man intertwines with the Marvel universe. And, it looks like Marvel's trying to set themselves up for after, Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and stuff. And are they going to set themselves up for maybe Miles Morales in the future, or maybe Miles Morales now and a Gwen Stacy in the future or something, as far as Spider-Man's concerned? So, I mean, I'm interested in finding out more about this character once I get a chance to actually read her myself. So,
well, she's been dead since 1973 in the 616.
Spoilers! I haven't gotten that far in Spider-Man yet.
Yeah. I mean, this is a character kind of like Uncle Ben that you never thought would be alive in the main Spider-Man continuity again. So if they do if they do that, that's like probably the biggest thing coming out of Secret Wars. If Gwen Stacy all of a sudden's a part of the main Marvel universe.
What if they had Spider-Ben next?
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that will not be trending on Twitter or Instagram anytime soon.
You don't know.
Hashtag Spider-Ben if you would like to see that on Twitter.
Hashtag Spider-Man. I'll write the book.
So in this alternate reality, is like Peter Parker, is he never been Spider-Man, or is he like dead and Gwen took over, or what's going on with that?
Oh, what if he died? Yeah,
spoilers for the next 2 minutes for Spider-Gwen and Edge of Spider-Verse. Tune out if you don't want to hear this.
I don't want to hear it, so I'm just going to...
You don't want to hear it? Okay.
I just want to know... Well, I'm not sure now if I want to know.
Peter Parker is the Lizard, and he dies in the first issue.
Okay.
Who the heck is Peter Parker?
Well, you don't know who's Peter Parker? Jerry, he's a very popular figure in pop culture. He gets bit by a radioactive spider and becomes this character called Spider-Man.
Okay, some guy walked up to me in a food line one time and asked me if I knew who Peter Parker was.
I think that was before we knew each other. But
I'm totally joking.
But that's actually the story of how Jerry and I met, and we've had an epic friendship ever since, right?
We weren't looking for friends, though. We were looking for partners.
Exactly. I'll tell you what. I want to say this because Jerry has a good Gwen Stacy story that I was actually telling somebody when I was waiting in line the other day. There was somebody cosplaying as a beautiful Gwen Stacy at Heroes Con a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And who were you waiting in line, Jerry, to get a signing from? Do you remember?
Bill Willingham, who created and wrote Fables. Fables.
Tell this Gwen Stacy story. It's your story to tell.
There was a really, really good Silver Age. I mean, just the colors and stuff that this woman chose for her Gwen Stacy costume were fantastic. And she was in line, and Bill Willingham was just telling a lot of stories. And this was right before Amazing Spider-Man came out. So this was HeroCon 2012. And he was talking, and he looked at her, and he said, "I love your costume. Thank you for coming as Gwen Stacy." And he's like, "Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker's original love." And he was just saying all these things about how much he loved Gwen Stacy, how great of a character Gwen Stacy was. And he goes, and who gets all the attention for the past 20, 30 years? Mary Jane. That hussy, and it was really funny.
It was, that cracked me up. I mean, I love Gwen, Peter's first love. She's super classy, and to see her come back and get this treatment, after all these years and years of just being a memory, and to have such a cool costume and such a cool following already. I mean, this is a diverse character that actually I feel like really means something to a lot of people, as opposed to just pushing a diverse character for the sake of being diverse. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm for diversity in comics, but this already has a massive following and resonated with a lot of people.
Right, yeah, it was just kind of like a one-off thing that happened to take off, so it's like, well, give the fans more of what they want, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the fans asked for it, and they got it, so check it out. It came out this week, Spider-Gwen #1.
So you said you stood in line for, 4.5 hours?
4.5 hours. We got it.
What's the longest line you stood in to meet somebody? Was it
to meet somebody or to buy a product?
To meet somebody.
Well, Stan Lee was about 6 hours. That was probably the longest. Well, Kevin Eastman was a long time, too. I mean, probably 4.5 hours for Kevin Eastman, 5 hours, and about 6 hours for Stan Lee.
And what about George R. Martin?
Oh, man, probably about... Man, that may have been about 6 hours or 5 hours, too. That was a long line.
There's a lot of lines.
Yeah, my longest waiting experience, though, was when I bought my PlayStation 4. PlayStation 3. I was in Walmart for 42 hours.
Oh, my God.
Did you not know that?
In line.
Oh, you camped there.
No.
Yeah. And when I bought my Xbox...
They sold out.
Yeah, I bought my Xbox 360, 13 hours in line. Which I know Jerry just walked right up and bought his at a GameStop.
Or Sam's Club.
I
just walked to the store and bought mine.
But you didn't get it at launch.
Mine was like 2 years later.
Yeah, but I did something. This is the only time I've ever done this, when I went and bought something at midnight or got a signature or whatever.
Look to somebody else in the parking lot.
Now, I got it. It was $600 when the PS3 launched. I sold it for like $1,200 on eBay.
Wow.
And then as soon as they got them in stock, I just bought another one and a few games and made a little bit of a profit on it.
I had something like that happen to me recently, like a couple days ago. I didn't sell this thing. I'm holding on to it, but there's this, for anybody who plays Skylanders or has kids that play Skylanders or whatever, this year they have like these little traps that you can use to capture villains in the thing. And there's one called the Chaos Trap that's used to capture the main bad guy of the whole series. And, it's like super hard to find. They had a special version that came out in the limited edition of the starter pack. But other than that, there's like, one per case or whatever when these things are shipped. They are extremely hard to find. And I was just at a Walgreens the other day, and they happened to carry Skylanders in their toy section. I didn't know this. And a Chaos Trap is just sitting right there.
Walgreens is rocking right now.
Yeah, I picked it right up. And I mean, that thing's selling for like $60, $70 on eBay and stuff right now. But I'm going to hold on to it so when I play Trap Team with my nephew, I'm going to have, capture chaos.
My wife thinks I'm crazy, but I love waiting in these type of lines. I was telling her this yesterday. Because when you're waiting in these type of lines, everybody shares the same experience, the same love for that property and passion that you do, or character or writer. And to stand in line and hear people's stories about why the character or the comic or whatever means so much to them, I just think it makes the time go by really quick.
And then they turn around and sell it all for a profit.
You can definitely tell usually the flippers from the true fans when you're in a line like that. They're usually easy.
They're in line. Are these going to be in mint condition? Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, they're the ones who drop their comic right off at the CGC grading station as they exit the premises, right?
They're there with the gloves to pick it up.
All right, let's talk about real quick something we all checked out this week. The Joseph Kahn R-rated Power Rangers bootleg, reimagining, whatever you want to call it, that really swept the internet by storm this week. 5.9 million views.
It's no black and blue dress, okay?
No, it's not that, no. Which I saw yellow.
White and gold.
White and gold.
Black and blue, too.
I saw white and gold on that.
No, it's black and blue.
On the Oscar dress.
My wife saw white and gold.
This is Lupita Nyong'o's dress, right? The girl that was in 12 Years a Slave, I believe.
I have no clue.
I thought it was some girl from a bachelor.
I think it's a random.
Wedding.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a random? Okay.
Yeah,
It's random.
I think you're thinking two different stories.
Yeah,
Somebody's dress got stolen.
It was a diamond dress that she had stolen. That was Lupita Nyong'o.
This was completely different.
Who's also going to be in, I believe she's going to be in Star Wars. Lupita Nyong'o is too. Let's talk.
We all checked out. I thought you were going to talk about Fastlane, but
now let's talk about Joseph Kahn's Power Rangers reimagining. This thing had 5.9 million views on YouTube. Saban contacted Joseph Kahn, asked him to take it down. A lot of people loved it. It offended some people. Andrew and I are pretty big Power Rangers fan. Jerry is a big Power Rangers fan. So-so, it was not his favorite kind of childhood property. Andrew
better or worse than Spider-Man?
God,
I like Power Rangers a little more than Spider-Man.
Oh my God.
So, for Power Rangers, I have very vivid memories of about the first season or maybe 2 seasons. That's about it.
You know who Rocky and the original?
I remember Rocky and Aisha and Adam. I remember them coming over, and by about that point, I was
the power transfer episode. Let me set it up. So this is an alternate reality with the Machine Empire going through, killing a lot of Power Rangers after a Benedict Arnold that has now become Rocky has betrayed the Power Rangers. And Andrew, reactions to this?
My first reaction was
jaw dropping.
I was like, I really enjoyed it. The whole idea, like I like having like these older properties kind of reimagined in some ways, and the idea that the Machine Empire came in, because when they came in the show, they wiped out Lord Zed and Rita. So the idea that they would come in and like wipe out all the Rangers and just take over the whole world, I think is really interesting. It's obviously a dark and gritty,
That's putting it lightly.
And it definitely at times feels like kind of dark and gritty for the sake of being dark and gritty, like over the top. But I think that's kind of the point of it. Like, I don't think it's necessarily this is what a Power Rangers movie should be. It's kind of like, I think, kind of a take on Hollywood rebooting and making everything dark and gritty. You know what I mean?
Tell me the director's name again.
Joseph Kahn is the director. He's a music video director.
No, he's directed The Gray, Machine Gun Preacher, Dread.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. He's that was the director who produced it.
Yeah, Joseph Kahn.
The director was somebody different.
Yeah, Joseph Kahn was the guy behind the scenes. I should maybe rephrase that. He was the producer. He was the one who addressed fans when this whole thing started going out, and he was the one who produced The Gray and a few other films.
So watching the video with him, I mean, he's a pretty hardcore Power Rangers fan.
Yeah.
That's pretty clear. One of the things he commented on was that, I mean, the whole premise of Power Rangers is there is an intergalactic war going on, and you're turning these teenagers into soldiers.
Teenagers with attitude.
Teenagers with attitude, of course. And so you have the whole, what would happen to these child soldiers, basically. So I definitely think while it's gritty, I think there's a parody aspect to it in some point, definitely. To me, I thought it was interesting. I enjoyed it. It was very well done. At the same time, there was definitely a part of me that was like, this is a great thing to hold up when you're saying not everything needs a gritty reboot. It was good. I liked it, but it's like it kind of zaps a lot of the fun out of the property in a way. It's a neat short thing, but I've been reading, and I'm not fully caught up yet, but I've been reading this week some of the DC's new Masters of the Universe comics. And they definitely get better as they go. I know we reviewed some of them early on. But I was reading one of them the other day, pretty early, first or second issue of the main series, not the first miniseries. And there's like a panel just with one random Princess of Power character just getting impaled by a sword. And that's all that character has. And I'm like, really? I mean, you're just
That's how I like my Princess of Power characters, impaled with the sword in the first panel.
You're taking this beloved character and all you're doing. And I'm like, they tried to be so grim and gritty, and really it was like, hey, you know what? I like grim and gritty stuff sometimes, but for something that's kind of been a fun property, I don't always feel the need for it. And I thought it was maybe a good thing about not every property needs to come back and be hardcore, and
you can be serious without being dark.
Yeah. I think that Jason David Frank, who is Tommy, right? He was talking how the same thing that Jerry's saying is it did take a lot of the fun out of the property, because at its core, Power Rangers is supposed to capture like a child's imagination. So he wasn't really a fan of it. Mm-hmm. And I believe Zach, who was maybe one of the most scrutinized characters in this, he was in favor of it. God, what's the guy's name that plays Zach?
I like the hip hop Kado section with his tapes. That was pretty
Walter Jones. He plays Zach in the original Power Rangers. He kind of liked it. Amy Jo Johnson, the original Pink Ranger, kind of had the best input when she said, "I liked it. Don't tell Saban though." That's what she tweeted out. So I like her tweet on it. But yeah, the hip hop keto. I would say that, I don't know, I guess Zach was the one that kind of, the stuff was a little more edgier, provided some of the more jaw-dropping moments from the short film. It was definitely kind of the furthest from the spirit of the actual show that we all grew up on. Any other thoughts on this short Power Rangers film, guys?
The first time I watched it, I thought that they were going to have Trini as the only character that died, because I think she was the first death mentioned, and I was like, wow, this is like bad taste.
Yeah.
But then, like, okay, they're all being killed off. James Vanderbeek, good to see him doing something.
Yeah, it was really interesting seeing James Vanderbeek and Katie Sackhoff, that they had some recognizable names for this.
And I believe they're close friends with Joseph Kahn, so they probably did this at a discount.
I like that he was Rocky, too. At first, I thought he was I wasn't sure what character he was. Like, she mentioned him being a ranger, and then you find out that Jason was dead, and I'm like, what ranger is he supposed to be? So, they went a little bit into the lore of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, into Zeo a little bit.
I like that. I like the aesthetics of it. I love the way that the Green Ranger's shield looked, kind of like holographic see-through. I thought that was a nice touch. And it would be like what I would expect a new Power Rangers movie to look like. Not be like, story-wise or kind of philosophically, but look-wise, it looked really good. This wasn't cheap. They put a lot of money into this, even though they weren't using copyrighted footage.
Yeah.
If you had to rate this, if we were doing a full review on it, which we could have, what would you have rated it? Besides R or TVMA.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, again, looking at it through the eyes of a kind of like tongue-in-cheek take on a reboot, I mean, I'd probably give it a great.
Yeah, I would too. I'd give it a great, just based on what it was. Now, is it what I want to see, like Jerry was saying? Absolutely not. I want it to be a little bit of that, a little less hardcore, and still keep some of the heart of the show intact. Where if I have a kid when this franchise is going on, I want to be able to take them to it and share it with them. I don't want to be able to only take my wife to it, who will probably not want to go see it. What about you, Jerry? What would you have rated this one?
I'm probably right around the same area as you guys. Probably a good and a half to great.
All right. Well, it's been put back online if you want to watch it.
Yeah, I want to see somebody do, in honor of the originals, how they were made. I want to see all the fight scenes replaced with like Japanese footage of the fight scene, with have them interspersed in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what, is it Lionsgate who is going to be doing the new one, I believe? Yeah. Like, how that's going to fare. And it comes out the same day as the new Ghostbusters, which you got to figure they're going to change that.
Somebody's going to back down. Yeah.
Go Power Rangers.
Go Power Rangers. If I have my choice between that Ghostbusters film and Power Rangers, I'll go see both in the same day, but I'll be at Power Rangers first.
I think Power Rangers would move before Ghostbusters.
These are two movies where I definitely have to see a trailer before I determine which one I'm more excited for.
Yeah, I agree with that. I echo that sentiment. All right, let's get into epic news this week. Unfortunately, we're starting epic news with a rather sad story this week, as news of Leonard Nimoy is passing at the age of 83 from pulmonary disease that he contracted when smoking, which he gave up that habit 30 years ago, but it was still a health problem he had to deal with. Dead this week, guys. A pioneer for science fiction, a pioneer for fandom. What was your reaction to the news that Leonard Nimoy had passed?
My wife texted me, and I was actually in my office crying. I really was upset by that. I mean, once again, 83. I mean, it's hard to say tragic in the sense like when somebody younger passes away, But it was just really sad. I mean, Leonard Nimoy has just always been a classy person and somebody just with a lot of interesting, good things to say. And I mean, he's done so much stuff that I really care about. So I was really upset.
He's an icon. I said on the site, if you're making a Mount Rushmore of geekdom, he would probably be on it.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, his contributions, not just with Star Trek, but with things like Fringe and a lot of other, how he interacted with the fan community, how he never kind of backed away from the Star Trek franchise, how he was willing to kind of bridge the gap between the old franchise and the new franchise with J.J. Abrams when Captain Kirk was, not willing to do that. I mean, I think that when Shatner wasn't willing to do that, I think that kind of speaks to his commitment to the people that love his work. And, that was sad news. He's not somebody even though it was 83, he's still involved in the public consciousness. It's not somebody you wake up and expect to pass. So,
I was actually, before I ever even heard about him passing that day, I was actually singing the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins, which is the Hobbit theme song that he sang.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know he sang that.
What?
I didn't know he sang that.
Have you never seen the video with Zachary Quinto where it's called the challenge, where they're having a challenge about beating each other in a golf game?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Anyways, back in like the mid-late 60s, Leonard Nimoy recorded on, I think the album's called Another Side of Leonard Nimoy. He recorded a lot of folk songs, does a great version of Everybody's Talking at Me, but he sang this song that's called The Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. You gotta look it up. It's like this, in a hole in the ground in the middle of the Shire is a brave little hobbit that we all admire. He's Bilbo Baggins.
I think I've heard the song. Yeah, I've heard of it.
It's Leonard Nimoy. The video's great, man.
I think of him as far as music as being in the alternate music video for the Bruno Mars song.
Oh, I love that.
I can't remember the song, but I don't feel like doing anything. The Lazy Day song.
Yeah, Lazy Day.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's a great video.
It's a great video. If you've never watched it, look it up. I mean, he had a good sense of humor, and he didn't take, as serious as Spock was, he didn't take things too seriously. He seemed to really enjoy life and interacting with fans.
He was on The Simpsons. He was on Futurama. He narrated the video game Seaman for Dreamcast. So where you grew like that weird fish with a human face. Yeah. He was the narrator of that game, which was a big deal for him to be the narrator back when that came out in like 99.
And he has an iconic voice. When you hear that voice, you knew it was Leonard Nimoy.
Could make it through the Wrath of Khan without crying at the end when Spock dies in the film. So now I probably won't be able to make it to that movie without crying, although
that's the first thing I thought of was the hand on the glass. That was the first kind of, when you say Spock dying, Leonard Nimoy dying, that was the picture I wanted to put up when I wrote up the article, his rest in peace, but every one I found was copyrighted by Paramount, unfortunately. So, Andrew, you're a big Spock fan. I mean, you cosplayed as the character. You've been the character for Halloween, so I know you were saddened by the news, even though you found out late since you're giving up browsing for Lent, but hope you didn't mind me sharing that.
I talked to you twice that day, and I talked to Jerry once, and neither one of you mentioned this to me. So I found out much earlier that night when somebody texted me about it. Another Star Trek fan of mine, friend of mine texted me about it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Star Trek. I mean, and he showed up, beyond just the original series, beyond just these new movies. He played Ambassador Spock and some of the other series and stuff as well.
Yeah, he was, on a couple Big Bang Theory episodes too. I mean, this is a guy that nobody is going to forget anytime soon, but that everybody who didn't even watch Star Trek, at least if you saw his face, you're like, yeah, I know him. He's from that show, Star Trek, right? Even if you're the furthest person removed from geek culture, I mean, you know who Leonard Nimoy is, right? I mean, you could argue he's maybe even more recognizable than Shatner when it comes to Star Trek. I know that may be blasphemy in Iowa, but...
Well, next time you're in Food Line, you can just go around asking people if they know who Leonard Nimoy is, and we'll find out. That's another study for us.
Pretty soon you won't be able to go to Food Line, by the way.
That's my next.
No, you need to stop asking people questions.
That's my next study. All right, I want to talk about real quick the news that it's hard to transition out of that news from Spock, but that Arkham Knight, Jerry, will be rated M for mature, and you played all the games, you collect the action figure line, you're the biggest fan of this property, I know, even though I played the games as well, and Andrew's played some of the games. What was your reaction to that news?
What I mean, I guess I didn't think it was that shocking. I mean, any kind of violence in a game, typically, I mean, you're going to have a teen rating or a mature rating. And I was just thinking, I mean, most of the time,
every game's kind of violent, though. I mean,
well, yeah,
Skylanders.
But anything that's like a realistic violence with humans, typically, are going to be a teen mature rating. And I think that with movies, there's a very clear line between PG and 13 and R most of the time. There's some specific stuff that you expect, but video games, it's not always that way. I mean, it can be little things that change the rating of the ERSB. Anyways, I don't think it's as big of a deal as some people are making it out to be. I imagine it's because of the way the villains are going to be probably killing some guards and stuff, or, the villains are fighting back against some police officers, or just some, villains fighting amongst themselves. I mean, it's probably going to be a little bit of blood, probably some blood, and, I mean, once again, more realistic-looking violence. Because you have more realistic-looking characters, I'm not expecting anybody to be dropping F-bombs or, anything like that.
Well, I react differently to the news. I think it's a big deal, but not for the reasons that you're describing. I think it's a big deal because Rocksteady said when we made the game, there was no rating in mind. We wanted to make the best game we could, artistically speaking, storytelling, narratively speaking, and we'll worry about the rating when we get it. And it just happens that every other game they did that they worked on, they got a teen rating. It happened that this time they got an M rating. So I think it's good news that they're not compromising their craft when they do this. So.
Yeah.
And
Andrew obviously doesn't mind Batman being this dark, hero. So.
And I just don't think that a mature rating on a video game hurts sales at all. Like, I mean, there is some research and evidence that shows that an R rating on a movie,
big time,
can hurt can hurt the audiences that see it. You have people that won't go watch it, but video games just don't seem to be affected by that.
Yeah.
Well, when they brought in Joseph Kahn to consult on the new Arkham game, I was a little concerned. So, of course, I'm joking about that. All right, then. Well, let's go ahead and get into our featured review of the week, guys. Let's talk about Darth Vader #1 and Darth Vader #2 by Kieron, Gillen, and one of my favorite artists going in comics right now, Salvador Laroca, who did a fantastic job on an Iron Man run with Matt Fraction. So, guys, we all read the comic. What were your... Well, let me set it up a little bit. Okay, this is kind of the reaction of the Emperor, the fallout from the destruction of the Death Star, the result of the things that we've read in Star Wars #1 and 2, which we reviewed, which talked about the weapons factory being destroyed by the rebels. This is kind of Darth Vader dealing with all of that. All of the kind of the crap that has happened to the Empire from A New Hope through the first 2 issues of the new Star Wars comic. So, guys, what's your initial reaction to this comic?
My first reaction was like, what? And then I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure. It doesn't feel quite as action packed as like the first Star Wars the new Star Wars for Marvel comic feels. I've really enjoyed seeing some of the, prequel trilogy, kind of like locations and stuff. I think it was really cool, and seeing Darth Vader in some of those areas. And
what prequel trilogy locations?
What was the?
I'm trying to think.
He went to Tatooine, but I mean that's
it went to Tatooine. But what's the city? The big city.
Coruscant.
Oh, Coruscant.
Yeah, we was in Coruscant with the Emperor.
That's true.
And there's one other one. There was some prequel thing.
Well, the droidicas, the destroyer droids were in there that were augmented. Okay.
In the very first issue, I'm trying to remember. There was another definitely a prequel thing that I saw that definitely reminded me of the prequel trilogy. I can't remember though. But I don't know. That was still in the city. I don't know. But it was just cool to see Darth Vader in some of those locations and tying them together. Yeah.
Well, I have different reactions from the first issue to the second issue, which I feel like I need to differentiate. I was crazy about the first issue. I mean, you tell me you see Vader go to Tatooine, confront Jabba the Hutt, and all of this stuff. Like you said, go to Coruscant. Just cool stuff that you imagine in your head Darth Vader doing, but you've never seen growing up. I mean,
Darth Vader surfing, Darth Vader skydiving, Darth Vader eating a shark. Yeah, lots of cool stuff I always imagined Darth Vader doing.
But, I mean, in all seriousness, though, it gives you kind of a different glimpse at the character in that first issue. Jerry, what did you think of the first issue and the second issue? Just overall.
I liked them. I'm not as sold on this so far as I am on the regular Star Wars series.
I echo that.
So what I'm gonna say is that I think it's a lot harder because Vader. I mean, in the original trilogy, Vader's not like necessarily just a silent character or anything. I mean, he's not Boba Fett,
but he's mysterious a little bit.
He's a little mysterious, and so you have some of that taken away when you have him like with the Emperor getting chewed out for letting this happen with the
being worried about leading up to it.
Yeah, the Death Star, and
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that interaction between Vader and the Emperor, and pretty much he goes in there and kind of like if you screwed up at work, your boss chews you out in the office. This is kind of Palpatine chewing him out, like Andrew said, on Coruscant. But Coruscant,
there's no C in it. Don't pronounce the C.
All right, sorry. Whatever. The big shiny planet with lots of CG in it. All right, but. Yeah, it kind of takes a little bit away from the character. You kind of see him kind of almost demasculated a little bit to see him get chewed out by the Emperor. And this is a mild spoiler, but he gets a demotion and he kind of gets your lead Imperial kind of guy to oversee him, to call the shots. And besides Grand Moff Tarkin, I really can't see, or the Emperor, like it's hard for me to envision anybody giving Darth Vader orders.
I thought it was interesting that my recollection, just having read this about 30, 45 minutes ago, without doing any kind of research after reading it, I don't think they've ever made mention that Tag made it off the Death Star. So that's kind of a new thing.
Well, why is Vader getting so held? I mean, I guess because of not being able to stop the rebels in the air. But when he warned Tarkin about the kind of overconfidence with this military weapon and how it lacks in comparison to the power of the Force in A New Hope. So, I mean, isn't it a little contradictory to kind of hold his butt to the fire here?
Well, they bring up the point, though, and it's a good point. Vader puts the tracking device, homing beacon, on the Millennium Falcon, but intentionally lets the rebels escape with the Death Star plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a risky gambit, because they could have gotten rid of the rebels because of that, but at the same time, he did let these plans go. and had a chance to get them back and let it slip away.
Do you think that Vader was all in on the plans for the Death Star? Do you think there's some part of Darth Vader that wanted those plans to kind of get out there, maybe wanted the Death Star to kind of get destroyed in a sense?
No, not at this point, no.
Maybe.
No, I don't think so at all.
I think it's worth pondering because I think that he feels that the leadership for the Empire has kind of lost focus. I mean, I don't think that that's what they were thinking when they were writing this story. I'm just saying it's an interesting theory to throw out there.
No, I don't think Vader had that in mind at all at this point. I mean, I think he really was thinking they're going to go back to the Rebel base and we can destroy the Rebels completely.
What did you think about kind of Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, if you will, going back to Tatooine, a place we know he has a love-hate relationship with?
Are we doing spoilers for the 2 issues?
Well, I mean,
it's 2 issues of a comic. I think it's hard to say there's a lot of spoilers here.
Just checking.
Okay, yeah, if you're afraid to listen, there will be some spoilers for Darth Vader 1 and 2 starting now.
I do like how he shows up and kills more sand people.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of some like kind of goofier dialogue of Attack of the Clones. I killed them. I killed the women. I killed the children. It's just like he's just back to his old tricks. He shows up, starts killing sand people again.
Can you see Vader like taking a weekend? He gets like stressed, like Admiral Mahdi, he plays golf.
Yeah.
General Tag, he goes and gets like a massage. Vader like takes a shuttle to the weekend at Tatooine and just kills sand people.
I just like the idea of
that's when he blows off steam.
He goes back to his home planet. He doesn't go back to like his favorite little local restaurant. No, he just goes and kills a local group of people.
He goes beats up on Walt. And,
Are there any sand people left by A New Hope? Or by the later on?
I just think like there's parts of the first 2 issues that really are Vader as we know and Vader as we expect. For instance, when he enters Jabba's palace and just lightsabers the 2 guards, and you're like, yes.
He's like, I only killed 2 guards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Consider yourself lucky, basically.
This is Vader. And then you kind of see when he uses the Force choke on Jabba the Hutt and things like that. Now, I didn't expect maybe Vader as we know him in the movies. I tell you what, I wanted kind of a little more out of these comics, and we're only 2 issues in, and that is kind of that remnant of Anakin Skywalker in there. Like you can kind of feel that hint of him in there, and kind of to see that seep away would kind of be an interesting narrative in these Darth Vader comics, which still could be, to come soon.
It definitely kind of feels like more of almost an Anakin Skywalker comic than Darth Vader comic at times.
Which is, I think, is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
It is interesting, though, when you have these elements of Vader that show...
I just thought there would be more of that to address Andrew's point.
But show Anakin behind the mask. I thought that the book Tarkin has a lot of these elements where Tarkin and Vader are like in a flight or like walking somewhere, and they have like this awkward casual conversation and stuff. And it is interesting because you're like, Vader was like not just sitting around completely. Anakin was a very emotional person, So you do have these elements just restrained by what Vader has become, and restrained, metaphorically, but also literally in his suit.
Yeah.
How he interacts with people is completely hampered.
You could, having a character like Darth Vader who's kind of seen as like this force, you know what I mean? Like, no pun intended.
And there was a lot of punny writing in this one.
But anytime you explore a character like that further, you always run the risk of kind of taking some of the magic away of that character or whatever. So
kind of like you talk about doing a Yoda movie or a Boba Fett movie, like Jerry was saying,
or like the Halloween reboot. You know what I mean? Where they explored Michael Myers more in depth. It kind of takes away from that unstoppable force that he is. And it's like, no, he's just a kind of messed up person. You know that. But, it kind of takes some of that away. I do like that the comic was, from the opening scroll, it's kind of from the point of view of the Empire. It sees the rebels in a negative light. I definitely
like that.
I really enjoy seeing, like, you have this kind of typical good versus bad conflict, and you're like, well, there are characters on the other side. You know what I mean? They're not just evil for the sake of evil. What are they doing? I always like this kind of alternate take on it.
I mean, and there's the Empire feels justified in what they're doing. Of course, we always view the Empire as the bad guy and the rebellion as the good guy.
Yeah.
I think that's the traditional way of looking at it. But there were people in the galaxy who enjoyed or appreciated the stability. Now, it may have been elitist, but appreciated the stability that the Empire brought following the Republic, which was just kind of a mess about leadership. All right, Chewbacca. Knock it off, Buzzball. And you bring up that Coruscant, panels, if you will. There was a scene that was actually, I got this book, kind of Complete Darth Vader, that talks about a scene that was taken, I believe, out of Empire Strikes Back, in which Vader was to take an Imperial shuttle to Coruscant to visit the Emperor, rather than have that scene where he talks to the Emperor holographically. So I think that was a cool nod to kind of, this is a scene we never saw in the movies, but it was supposed to be a scene with the original storyboards. God, Jerry, my name's escaped me. Guy that did Ralph McQuarrie. That's the guy.
McQuarrie.
Yeah, he did the storyboards.
One of the things I liked about the comic, and one of the things I'm enjoying about, I don't know, I'm just noticing more of it in the past couple Star Wars endeavors, Tarkin and things like that. But when Darth Sidious Palpatine is talking to Vader about the problem of the Death Star being destroyed, and it's that, but when the Death Star was built, once it was finalized, that's when the Empire disbanded the Senate.
Yeah.
And so all that control that they had through manipulating the Senate was gone, and it was replaced with the Death Star. So there's like this huge power vacuum there as well.
That makes the destruction of the Death Star all the more devastating for the Empire.
Yeah, and that's mentioned in the original, the novel that came out before the movie. It's actually mentioned there at the very beginning of the book that the Palpatine had just disbanded the Senate, but they don't really mention it in the movies that overtly.
I want to read Tarkin, but I'm 89 pages in. I've given up on New Dawn. I can't. The book's just not for me, and I'm just not having fun reading it. So,
well, I mean, don't let that keep you from reading Tarkin, because, I mean, it's a different author and a different story.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think I want to give Tarkin a shot. Maybe I can get more
give Tarkin a shot.
I like more reading about the Empire and the Sith than I do other things.
I've got the new Luke book coming this week.
Which I hear is the worst.
Really?
Yes, in first person, and that's the one that people like the least.
Out yet, so I guess like early critic reviews.
I was referencing the Force Cast. They got early copies of it, and they seem to be pretty negative toward it. But speaking of judging things, guys, let's give our rating on these two comics. I'm going to start. I'm going to do mine separately. Darth Vader number 1, I would give a great. Darth Vader number 2, I would give a good. I think the book kind of takes a little bit of a step off, but not as much of to the extent that I want to take it off of my pull box yet.
I hope not after 2 issues.
No, what about you? What about you, Andrew?
I have no idea. I mean, I think I may give them both a good and a half, honestly. I think they're both about even in my eyes.
What about you, Barbecue?
I'm going with good and a half on both as well.
Yeah, and it's hard to judge them when you're talking about basically a sample size of a story arc here.
Right, it really is. We were talking about this the other week about how, modern comics are just you're just really reading a snippet of a story in an issue.
Yeah.
So I've been reading through some of the IDW's G.I. Joe, the Complete Collection that are based off the old 80s Larry Hama book. Mm-hmm. And you sit down and read that, and in one comic, I mean, there is a full, long story, sometimes new characters introduced, and I mean, a whole plot. Each one is like, I mean, they continue, but they're real self-contained in a lot of ways.
It's kind of like some of these shows, maybe like on HBO or something. These bigger shows that are on TV now. You forget when you go back and watch like how much happens in one episode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's and that's how old comics kind of were. You know?
Yeah, I mean everything. I mean, you could sit there and read one issue and get a full story. And, you know, reading this now, it's like you're just getting snippets of a story.
And longer arcs in comics are good, especially when you get the graphic novel and stuff. So there's definitely something to be said for it. But, you know, as far as that's one of the reasons I don't get single issues of comics. If I did get a single issue of a comic, it would just be sitting on my shelf, and I probably wouldn't read it until
they all came out. You got a big chunk, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to make that decision. I try to only get the characters that I absolutely really adore when we're talking about single issues. But unless you guys want to say anything else about Darth Vader #1, I think that's going to wrap us up for this edition of the Confirmed Epic Podcast.
I really liked the Wookiee bounty hunter. I don't remember his name.
I like the look.
Black Chris or something? Or Chris, we don't have it in front of us. But at first I was wondering maybe he was Snuva from Shadows of the Empire.
That's what I thought it was. But
it's
not, though. It's not.
It's not. No, at first I thought maybe it was when I saw Wookiee bounty hunter, but he didn't have the mohawk, so it wasn't Snuva.
It's like it's pronounced Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum is what it looks like. I'm probably butchering that name like I did.
Unless you want to say Brad's.
Chrysanthemum, I believe he's a Wookiee from Coruscant. Coruscant, rather. All right, Jerry Reed. Where can we find more of you this week?
You can find more of me on actionfigurebarbecue.blogspot.com. This week I will be reviewing probably a few different DC collectibles action figures that are on their way to my house. I'll probably be breaking into my Big Trouble in Little China reaction stuff. And I'm trying to do an older review of a couple G.I. Joe Sigma 6 toys. We'll see how that pans out.
All right. What about you, Andrew Stokes?
You can follow me on Twitter at Cries Juggernaut, CRIES Juggernaut. You can read one article of mine on the epicreview.com. That's thepicreview.com. And you can also see me on this season of American Idol. I made it pretty far this time around, so I'm pretty excited about that. My parents are moving to Hollywood without me. I'm not even sure what I'm talking about at this point.
Hollywood kid.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think there's the only two places you can find me, right? You can search me on Facebook if you want to be weird, creepy. Unless I know you, then, go ahead.
I'm going to give you GPS coordinates to where I'm at. That's 35 North.
I'm going to give you the address to Barbecue 17's house.
All right. Well, as for me, you can find me at thepicreview.com. Look for our Facebook page, facebook.com/thepicreview. Follow us on Twitter at thepicreview. Find me on Twitter at TheRealBradBell and on Instagram at TheRealBradBell, where I'm doing a lot more with Instagram, REEL Brad Bell. I want to do two things before we leave. One will be better left unsaid. One will be better said. Let's go ahead and give a late happy birthday to Miss Gina Wilshire. If you're listening, Gina, happy birthday. We meant to wish you a happy birthday on the last edition of the Confirmed Epic Podcast. I hope everything's well with your new teaching career.
What about a late happy birthday to me? You didn't even show up to my party, real Brad Bell.
And an early happy birthday to me. That's what was going to be better left unsaid.
That's better left way unsaid. Nobody cares. We are out.
Live long and prosper.